everybody, I'm Trish, you're watching The Hunt. Welcome back, and we are with my next guest, Sebastian Terry. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, absolute pleasure.
So, do you prefer Seb?
I'm easy. Yeah. I'm easy.
That's a whole nother show.
I've been called worse. Seb's fine. Yes.
Okay, Seb. So, Seb is the CEO of 100 Things, and you can find that at 100things.com.
That's exactly right, yeah.
Couldn't not get any easier than that. So let's just tell the audience, what is that?
Well, it's an interesting story. The origin of it is, I have a list of 100 things that I'm trying to do to be happier in life, to smile more often. I actually lost a friend about 15 years ago, and it made me consider life in a completely different way. And I ultimately just asked myself if I was happy, realised I wasn't for the first time, and I thought, wow, how do I change that? So I got a piece of paper and a pen and just started writing down things that I thought would make me smile, and there was a list of 100 things. So I dropped everything in my life to pursue this list. Wow. I flew to Las Vegas, married a stranger there, which was really fun. It's a long story, I'm happy to share. But anyway,
still married?
Didn't work out. No, it was 24 hours. And then, you know,
everybody needs that experience.
They do. No, they don't. That's not my message, by the way.
Okay.
But I think it is important for us to consider, well, what will make us smile? What's going to make us feel good, in and out of the workplace? But I wasn't thinking that back then. I was just experiencing.
So is it more than a bucket list?
Yeah, completely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the bucket list is an interesting connotation. It's, jumping out of planes or climbing mountains. Okay. That's not what this is about. I think it's 100 Things now, 14 years on, we're a company that helps companies, organizations, individuals, teams, look at the concepts of goal setting, goal striving, goal sharing, coming together to achieve individual goals and group goals. So very accidentally over that time, it's garnered a big audience. It's been turned into a book and a TV show and all these wonderful things.
Unbelievable.
Out of nowhere. I'm very lucky to speak a lot on stages to companies about purpose and meaning and connection and engagement and using the bucket list kind of as an in.
Yeah. So go back to the why, I guess, behind this, Sebastian. So you had a friend die, tragically, or
it was tragic.
Tragic.
Yeah.
But it was a transformational experience, so much so that you literally, were you in Australia at the time?
I was actually in Canada.
Oh, you were in Canada.
I'd got I finished university.
Okay.
My career advisor told me to do that. Got the degree and I thought, I just feel just as lost. Yeah. So I went backpacking, and years later I was still backpacking, drifting in Canada. Got a phone call from a friend back home telling me that Chris had passed. Yeah, and I just remember putting the phone down and...
Can I ask how old were you at the time?
I was 25, Chris was 24.
Oh.
And I remember sat next to the phone in the middle of the night in Canada just asking all those questions I think we do. Why am I here? What am I doing? Whatever it is I am doing, am I doing it well? And I became so confused, and then there was a hypothetical that popped into my head, and it hasn't left to this day. And it was quite simply, if Chris knew that he only had 24 years on the planet, if he knew that, he died when he was 24, would he have lived the same way? Or if given another 24 years, would he live differently? And I don't think he would have changed anything. He lived a very values-driven life. He loved his friends, his family, team sport, having a couple of beers, rightly or wrongly by anyone else's code. He lived a life that was very true to him. I then turned that question on myself in the middle of the night, sat on the floor next to the phone, and I thought, well, if I was going to die today, could I look back and, really say, well, I lived a good life? And I just realized in that moment, I had no idea who I was.
So at that age, you're finishing university, you're saying, okay, society kind of dictates I should now go work for a corporation or, go do the traditional things. Did you not feel any of that pressure at that time, or you had I would say the luxury, but you weren't bound to anything or anyone, so you had the space and freedom to really...
It's interesting. I, clear as day in that moment, I remember I write a lot when I'm thinking to help me process stuff.
That's good.
And I remember just thinking, what could be more important than happiness? And it sounds so cliche and made up.
At 25, that's pretty deep, I think.
Oh, I'm incredibly deep, Trish, yeah. And I thought, well, what is happiness? And physically for me, I thought, well, that's smiling. So I just wrote down this list, and as I said, flew to Las Vegas, married a stranger, didn't work out, and flew back to Australia. So a lot of people think, well, that was the beginning of the list and we're off to the races. It's not true. I then conformed back into normality. I was home for 2 years. I started an events company with a friend, an inflatable movie screen business. It was very bizarre. Made no money, and in that time just got quite down on myself and not really understanding or even realizing that I wasn't feeling great. I just broke down crying one day in the back of a car. And I thought, whoa, where did that come from? And I just, again, thought about my life 2 years down the track after my friend had passed. And the next morning, I got my list that I had written 2 years earlier out of my drawer. For effect, I'll say there was dust all over it. I got it out and I saw this list. I went, oh, it was just like this.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's what I've got to do. So I called up my business partner, one of my best friends, and I said, as soon as we pay the business off, I'm out of here. That's what happened. So then I went to it. And I don't know, I mean...
Did he try to talk you out of it?
No, he said he didn't support me in the sense that makes sense. Everyone was like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. But I kind of feel like you mentioned the word like the luxury. I don't know, I feel like everyone has the ability to choose anyone. And that's all I did. It's not because I'm special or brave or anything like that. I just thought, I'm just really committed to wanting to feel better. And for me, I had a list of things that I felt like offered me a blueprint to being happier. So then it all just sort of escalated from there. And as I said, sort of sitting here today, very fortunate to speak to companies and run staff development programming. And I'm not sure how we got here, but it's amazing. And it's not about me anymore.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a big thing, right? Because when you look at the impact that you're having on the greater good and on just society at large through your audiences, that's got to be incredibly rewarding.
It's the best thing. Well, people often say, what's the best thing from your list? And I walked across the country, I posed nude at an art class, I delivered a baby, all these things. The best thing by far was helping somebody. Number 26 was just help a stranger. And a guy in Australia who saw me on TV, I'm a huge deal there. I'm so glad you laughed. He said, I want to complete a half marathon. And he was a quadriplegic. And he asked me to push him. And so I pushed Mark, we've now become close friends, for a half marathon. And by the end of the race, there were 20 strangers helping us. And I just saw the goodness of humanity. Every day I'm very blessed to see that people are good. People are good. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And that was sort of the physical, for me, realization, this is about more than just me and a list. I think you have to put to be very cliche, your oxygen mask on first. Yeah. And then I think you can help others, and that's what my list has been, the vehicle for me to be able to connect outwardly. But now, we have a big community of people. We've saved lives, that all sorts of things. We've helped find a kidney for somebody in our community.
Oh my goodness.
This is a story of many people. Yeah. Essentially, what we've done organically is built up a community of like-minded people who are all passionate about living well. And it's not just bucket listy things, it's personal, of course, it's key relationships, it's mental wellness, it's professional development, career.
Yeah.
We in our programming, if you imagine a wheel with spokes, and then imagine your life is that wheel, we talk about your spokes. What are your spokes? And we see that there's 12 commonly shared spokes: giving back, physical health, mental health, etc. People usually have between 7 and 8. If you're able to identify your spokes, you can then actually use that as a foundation for a meaningful list. And then we use, of course, group accountability and all that sort of stuff to help people action.
God, there's so much to dive into with that alone. I mean, because do people just take their spoke wheel and just be like, what am I, like, do they know it off the top of their heads, or do they have to do
we get them to write it.
assessment?
There's 8 steps. We use 8 steps.
Okay.
Step 1's permission. Step 2 is reflection.
Okay. What's permission?
Permission is allowing yourself, usually based on the premise.
Yeah.
Usually we're told.
Okay.
You can do this now. You're allowed to do this now. But we can do that for ourselves. So you give yourself permission to think about yourself.
Isn't it funny to think that we need to tell ourselves, you have permission?
I could be wrong, but I think that's pretty common. Yeah,
I know, exactly.
So step 1 is, this is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Step 2 is reflecting. You can't change the past, but knowing how you've been behaving, how you've been expressing yourself, have you been living a life true to yourself, all those things.
Sure.
So we get them to write a eulogy, and it helps people. It's quite confronting, but it helps people identify really important aspects that they've either nailed or overlooked. And usually the themes that are family, key relationships, professional development, impact, giving back, being true to yourself, adventure, travel, etc. So we use the reflection to then identify your spokes. Step 4 then becomes creating a list. And then the next 4 steps are all about executing it, choosing an item, action plan, pulling the trigger, because nothing happens without action.
Gosh, and I'm sure, I mean, and again, individuals, teams, organizations, all can benefit from that exercise.
Of course, I'm going to say yes.
To move things forward in your life. So you might feel like you're bound by your personal situation, like maybe you're a single parent with 2 kids and, well, how am I supposed to do that, right? But it's grabbing those low-hanging fruit and then actioning what you can, keeping the conversation going with yourself, that kind of thing.
And if you know, what your spokes are, you can rate them.
Yeah, actually, stay
I
right
feel like
there.
I'm at the Oscars.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, exactly. You are at the Oscars. So stay right there. We're going to be right back. We have to take a quick commercial break. We are with Sebastian Terry, CEO of 100things.com. You can find him there and all over social media. We'll be back in a minute. I'm Trish. You're watching The Hunt. I mean, can you imagine the wheel of conversation? Oh my God. See, like da, 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 da,